What's going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. Welcome to Oh So Simplified, coming to you with the video here about why now is the best and the worst time to start. And this video, like all my videos, is just coming from my personal life and just what I'm going through now. Obviously I set some lofty goals at the beginning of the year, haven't really done what I said. I did more than what I've done in the previous years. If you watch my old videos, you can kind of see everything that I said, but I did more videos in the first half of this year than I did all of last year and probably the other year before combined, but I didn't really stay on track to the consistency level that I said I was going to do. So I'm looking to finish this second half of the year strong. But what I've realized is that I've made this video in different forms multiple times without posting it, and I keep like trying to find this timing, and it's a big rut I fall into, but of like, when do you start? When do you kind of start something? And it's kind of something I've come to a realization about, but it kind of keeps repeating itself to me, that it's never the best time and it's never the worst time. And a great example of this would be the pandemic. Whether you want to get into real estate, it's probably extremely hard to purchase in this market. Everything's expensive. You're going to buy everything at an extreme markup. But if you sell a property, you know, getting out of it's probably a lot easier than usual. A lot of people are buying over asking price and things are flying off the shelf. So once again, it's a great example of it. Never a good time, never a worse time. Once again, with the pandemic, lots of people are losing their jobs, brick and mortar shut down, but if you were doing anything in the tech field, it was going up. If you were a brick and mortar that could stay around, or actually a better example would be like the UFC. Sports shut down. UFC, they doubled down during this time. They didn't like pull back any of their cards, and their business blew up, where a bunch of other people scaled back because they wanted to see what the CDC and all these people were going to say, but they didn't really see the gain in market share as the UFC did. So that's really the explanation in the beginning, is just it's never the best time and it's never the worst time. There's always pros and cons to whatever time it is, and it's within you to actually be able to see what benefits you can have and just start and use the pros to your advantage and just understand the cons so that you understand what to kind of watch out for. So that's number one. Number two is getting over yourself. So this is something that I'm really kind of dedicating this whole year to for myself, is just getting over myself, getting over my habits. There's a book called by Joe Dispenza. I like his work, his talks not so much, but I digress. There's a reason for that, but I digress, as I said. But he has a book called, two books. One's called Evolve Your Brain, and the other one's called Changing the Habit of Being Yourself. And he kind of explains basically the way that your brain works neuron wise, is that you have what are called like synaptic connections, and the more that you do an action, the more it ingrains in your head. And this can be for many things. So procrastination can be one. If you have a lot of times when you procrastinate over and over and over again, those pathways to procrastinate when you have something to do are going to be something that is the path of least resistance when it comes to your brain running what system. If you always procrastinate, actually doing it is going to be the path that is the path less traveled by. It's going to be have weeds, it's going to have forest thorns. You got to kind of clear it and do it a couple times to get through. And what I've realized is that there's certain actions in my life that I have either limiting beliefs, or we can call it negative momentum, in terms of not doing those things. So you know, posting on a regular basis, making these videos, blocking out the time, making sure I come up with topics. There isn't a ton of positive momentum in the past of doing this. Now, on the other hand, working out, lots of positive momentum. I'm never out of shape. I'm always in shape because I just have a ton of positive momentum for the last 7 years or so, where I just work out at minimum 4 times a week, if not 7 days a week. So that's another example. Getting over yourself and kind of breaking the negative momentum, no matter what it is. Like, even if you're, for example, for me, if I work out for a week straight, even if I didn't work out for a whole week, which doesn't really happen that often, but if I don't work out for a whole week, let's say I'm super sick, it only takes about 3 or 4 days for my body to whip back into shape. Whereas if you're 300 pounds it's like a train moving in one direction. For me, my body's always optimizing to be in better shape. If you've been living for the last few years not in shape, Superman can stop the train, but at a certain, and then I stole this from Coach Greg Adams. I gotta give credit where credit's due. If Superman tries to stop the train still continues moving until the point where it stops, and then he can start pushing the momentum this way. But there's a period of time in any habit you're trying to change, anything you're trying to do, where you kind of have to get over yourself, and basically, even though you're changing your habits, the trajectory is still moving that way because you haven't put enough force to get it to a dead stop and then get the momentum going this way, at which point it's actually going to be harder to get the momentum back to the negative. So that's really the second point, is getting over yourself and breaking negative momentum and creating positive momentum, which is hard to break on the other aspect. And number three is really what I originally was making all these topics about, is that chaos brings structure. This is something I learned in high school, that during wrestling season, I always got my best grades, even though I had the least amount of time. There was a lot more chaos, and I had to be a lot more structured to organize my day. So things like cutting weight, things like having different tournaments, having different matches. There wasn't as much time to do homework, to mess off, to hang out with friends, do all these other things. Whereas when it wasn't wrestling season, I had endless amounts of free time where, you know, I could always put things off. Then I noticed this again when I was in college, when I was working 30 to 40 hours a week, when I was waiting tables, knocking on doors, trying to paint houses. I got significantly better grades than when I had easier jobs, like when I was only working like 10 to 20 hours a week, because I didn't have as much time to not study. Like I couldn't just study the day before and think that was it, or I couldn't skip class and think I was gonna make it up later. So I took every amount of time I had to just put into those classes, and I pretty much got straight A's. My senior year of college, I got 1 B+, everything else was an A, and it was purely because I had so much chaos and so much mess in my life that I had to be structured about my time. And now what happened with me is I did adopt a pit bull from the shelter. A lot more work than I anticipated. Had him about 2 months. That's really kind of the first, that's kind of where this all demarks, is around the time I got my dog, when I stopped posting. 2 months ago, two and a half months ago, almost 3 months at this point. And I also started MMA, where I'm traveling to the city from Rahway, which is about an hour commute, to do MMA on Saturday and Sunday. So my weekends are a lot taken up, and it's added a lot of stress, but stress I want in my life. But long story short, it's kind of using that chaos to create structure. Now I'm realizing I have to be a little bit more maniacal about my time. I have to be a lot more disciplined in terms of making sure that I do things at a certain time, get the appropriate amount of rest, and do things of that sort. So you know, when you do have a full plate, just understand that you can organize the plate in a way that, you know, you'll be more efficient and more effective than you were when there was less on the plate. And the thing I'll say about that is, this is something else I learned during the time when I was waiting tables, was that the busier it was, the less mistakes I made. When I couldn't make mistakes, I didn't make mistakes. When I had a ton of time, I'd be messing up orders, not thinking on, so you want to, not thinking on like a full mental plane. And that leads me to the idea that you want to have more things to do, because the more things you have to do, the better you'll be about organizing it, because you have to. There is no plan B. The only plan is everything needs to work out flawlessly. So that's really it for this one. Just really wanted to kind of get back and get something in. I got a lot in store, but I don't want to speak it out. I just want to do it because I am really trying to get over that negative momentum myself of, you know, not living up to what I basically said. You know, that's the reason why I posted all that shit up at the beginning of the year, is to hold myself accountable. And, you know, I got to get this train, you know, stopped and moving in the correct direction. So that's really it for this one. You like the content, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Even dislike the video if you didn't like it. Any feedback will do. And until next time, you know what it is. Peace.